Hey everybody, it's Robert coming to you with another adventure into history. Behind me is the amazing Oak Grove Methodist Church. In 1876, when the United States was 100 years old, a congregation came together that eventually became the Oak Grove Methodist Church. It was an African-American congregation built up of formerly enslaved individuals. They established this church in 1876, initially worshiping under a brush arbor. This building was completed in 1919. In 1978, this building was remodeled, and in 1982, this church still had over 100 members in it. Today, in 2025, the church building looks like it won't be here much longer, but that's the point of Adventures into History. Document history before it's gone. Let's check it out. This is one of the most beautiful churches I've ever seen in the design. You can see the old wood shingling on the side that went around. I believe that would be the bell tower. Same over there. And then below, it's weatherboarded. And look at this phenomenal archway. You have to use your imagination to imagine what this would have been like when it was first built and how pretty it would have been with the front porch and this archway here. Today we just see it in ruins, but I think its beauty still shows through. And as we come up the steps, the porch, well, it isn't porching much anymore. You have two entrances for the church, likely an entrance for the men and women. Well, this is a real leap of faith, stepping onto this floor. My piano is still here, but it's been destroyed. This building really is just hanging on by a thread. It looks like you can see not only rot, but also when this old pine gets wet, the termites will move into it quick. They won't do it while it's dry, but as soon as it starts getting wet, they will definitely eat it up. Trying the floor, look at that. You can see the whole floor is moving. Yeah, whole building might be moving. It's a little spooky. Yeah, that wood is just entirely soft right there. So this was remodeled in the 70s, but we can see they added this wood paneling to it, but it was originally beaded board. We can see the beaded board there. And if we look up through the drop ceiling that was added, well, we can see straight up there. But we can see original beaded board, and you can see how high that ceiling originally was. You won't be able to tell it on video, but the floor is humped in the middle and sagging on both sides. You see that a lot in old buildings. There's a piano. Well, was the piano. It was very quiet and peaceful here. So I'm going to go ahead and not walk up there. But you can see it's pretty rotted. There's a pipe for a wood-burning stove right there. This is going to be from that 70s remodel, all this carpet. Of course, goes along with that wood paneling. And that over there that has been totally destroyed, and I'm not walking over there because I see it's leaning all kind of different ways. That looks like it was probably built in the 70s from the construction. We can see daylight up there. That's never a good thing. And again, more of that beaded board right there. Yeah, we are really, sadly, seeing the final days of this amazing old church. You can see the building's leaning every which way too. If you look at that beaded board, you can see it's kind of angling down that way. That's about enough for me of the inside of this church. This is one of those buildings that it's not going to, but it feels like it might just fall down on top of you. But I definitely am not done looking at it. So we'll take a look at the outside. And of course, we'll have to look underneath the church and look at some of the construction, which I see already some unique features. When I was reading the history of this church earlier, it said that there are burials in the graveyard that surround it that predate 1919, the build date of this building, and theorized that after the brush arbor that maybe there was another structure built on this site, and then this was built in 1919. And we don't know that for sure. It was just a theory, but I saw some of the wood over here looked like it would predate the 1919 build date. You can see that big beam right there that was squared with an adze. Not, no sawmill for this one. So it could have been reused from an earlier structure, possibly. It's just something to take note of. Otherwise, the building looks like round nail construction, which would go along with that 1919 build date. We're on brick piers. You can see where the windows were changed out in the 70s. You can see they were originally very tall windows. You see that big hole in the roof where what the heck is that? I thought those were honeybees. You probably won't be able to see them on video, but I thought those were honeybees right there, which I see around a lot of old churches. But if that isn't the most wasps I have ever seen in one place, that's a lot of wasps. Oh, there's hundreds of them up there. I don't know what type they are, but they're under that tin, flying all around. No friendly honeybees in the church today. Anyway, there's the hole in the roof that we saw from the inside, which is another sign that this building won't be around much longer. But that's why if we can't save it, we preserve it through photos and video and document its history. The wasps are really, bothering me, is the best way to put it. Trying to decide if I wanted to keep going this way or not in wasp territory. So here we can see where what I was talking about earlier, that addition onto the side of the church, probably a little fellowship hall was added on in probably the 70s. Looks like maybe like that asbestos tiling or something similar on the side of it. Cinder block foundation. So very obviously an addition. Back window here for this part of the building that sticks out. Windows again changed out. We can see some more construction here. See, like this is sawmill beam there. This one is not. This cleaned with an adze, squared with an adze. And Take a look underneath at the construction of the building. You can see it's sitting on brick piers originally, but some logs were used at some other time to help stabilize it. Also see some cinder blocks added over there for additional foundation supports. Look at those tiny little piers though that are under the center of the church. That beam right there also with an squared with an adze, as is that one, but they're not as crude as the other beam we saw, which means that other beam may have been used from a different structure. Let's see if we can sneak past the wasps of doom. Look at them all. I don't know if you can see them. Look at them all right there. There's hundreds of them up there. Okay, let's keep going before they notice me. These are the guardians of the church. I'm gonna sneak away very quietly. I also want to take a look at the graveyard and see if we can identify some of the earlier graves out here. But what a magnificent structure. Today it's totally in the middle of nowhere, but even in the 80s this place had a huge congregation, and I believe that I read that the congregation is still active, just at another building, and the graveyard looks like it's still being used. There was some type of wooden adornment on the very top of that peak right there. You just see rotted wood up there now though. And isn't that cross beautiful right there too? I thought we'd just stick our heads into the addition. I've got no desire to walk into it. And the church itself is getting a little hard to see. We can see the chimney for the wood-burning stove over there. There's steps going into this fellowship hall. But there is the chimney for the wood-burning stove. Another big wasp nest up there. See? This is the wasp church. Old buildings don't usually scare me. I'll walk inside of, just about anything, but sometimes, in the case of this church, you walk around inside of it and it, for all the world, feels like it's just about to fall down on top of you. And I definitely get those vibes from here. This looks like a sawmilled beam here. So just interesting to note. See how smooth the sides are. Versus we get back around to the front and we get that one that's another one, rather, that's squared with an adze. So definitely some older wood mixed in to the newer. Again, you can see where this wood has gotten wet and the termites moved in, and now it's just, that's it. That wood is done for. Now versus this, let's see, that's still hard right there, but that is just eaten up. This old pine gets wet and turns delicious for them. Or that siding up there, shingle siding. That's pretty neat. Now I think we were gonna stick our heads into the fellowship hall over here, and I didn't want to walk inside of this one because all the joists were kind of leaning over there. I don't know if you can see them on video, but it's like they're all bowed, like they're struggling to hold up some weight, in other words. And I didn't want to risk testing their endurance today. And there's a fellowship hall addition. You can see and then the side of the church that's built around too. So that's kind of neat. What a marvelous piece of history, though. Sadly, just kind of in the middle of nowhere, rotting down today. But that's why we do this, documenting things so that they can be preserved in a way. Now let's take a look at the graveyard. Looks like these are going to be newer graves over here, but I think that there are some older graves in the woods across from the church. So let's see if we can find them. There's some kind of murder ant. Look at the size of that thing. Look at that. All right. I'm gonna walk away from them before they get too mad at me. So I wanted to look and see if I could find some of the older graves. That's marble, but it doesn't have anything engraved on it. And that's broken. I thought it was originally like a triangle at top, a pointed top, but it's not. Those are just pieces of it. The top part of that grave has been busted up. I'd really like to see some of the older burials out here. I'm seeing newer stuff. So that one's from 1954. But there's an old funeral home marker right there. And I see a VA-issued headstone over here. There's burials all out here too. There's indentions. You can barely see because we're in sand. The indentions don't form the same in sand, but there's one right there. And then once you see one, I can see more of them. That's from 1981. That was once a giant oak tree. All right, let's see. Maybe we can get to this one a little bit easier. It's a broken concrete marker, so probably not as old as I was hoping for, but let's see if we can get a date on here. In memory of Stepney Scott, born 1816, died December 1896, so that is going to be a good older one. Stamped concrete with a design at the top that's just all about faded away. So Stepney Scott, no doubt born enslaved in 1816, 80 years old. I think that's going to be, "O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory?" Look at that guy. Okay. So there's one older one for us, 1896. All right, folks, for all the searching I've done, I have not found any more marked graves that are older out here. I was hoping to find some more. I was also hoping to see if there could possibly even be any Elgin Bailey grave markers out here, which, if you don't know who that is, I've done several videos on him, but I don't see anything. But a very interesting place, amazing old building, cemetery with probably hundreds of unmarked graves throughout these woods, just indentions, if they've even formed indentions, and very few old marked graves in this historic African American cemetery. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you next time on another adventure into history.